Right, this is a video on mortise lock identification. Some locksmiths seem to find it hard to differentiate between the locks and can't get to grips with the gauge keys. Now the reason why we have the gauge keys is so we can determine which gauge the lock is. So there's 5. For the purpose of the mortise lock identification manuals, we use 5 gauges. Now we make our gauge keys by cutting the tail off the key and take it down, but we still want to be able to turn the curtain with the key. So I've done an era for the 7 gauge, a union for the 5 gauge, a leg for the 5.5 gauge, a basta for the 8 gauge, and this is for the imperial. This is the 6 gauge one. Now the reason why we use the gauge keys is so we take the guessing out of what the lock is, because whatever the gauge is of the lock narrows down by 90% what you're going to go for. Now I've got a variation of locks. I've got British Standard, non-BS, but at the end of the day this is going to be split up into 2 halves. It's going to be showing you how to do the British Standard locks, how you're going to determine them, the non-BS locks, non-curtain locks, and even other ones as well. By the time you finish watching this video, you're going to know exactly, by using these keys, what you're going to be looking for, where you're going to be drilling, what kind of pit you're going to be using to pick them open, if that's your choice. So here we go. Right, so how do we use the gauge keys to determine what gauge the lock is? Now let's take the union for example. The leg key goes in it, but so does the union. The union's not as sloppy, so it's the union. It's the 5 gauge lock. Right. When we step down to a 5.5 gauge, this is an ASEC. Try the 5.5. Well, first of all, we'll try the 5 gauge key. It doesn't go in. Try the 5.5. That goes in. It's a 5.5 gauge lock. Come down now to the imperial. We know that's a 6 gauge lock, but we'll try the leg one. Doesn't work. Try an era one. That goes in, but the 6 gauge goes in better, tighter. So it's a 6 gauge lock. Now the last 2 on the side, we've got a secure fast and we've got a bastard at the end. Again, try a 5 gauge key in it, doesn't work. Try the 6, doesn't fit in. 7 goes in. The 8 will go in, very sloppy. The 7 is better. Alright. And as I say, as for the last one, that is an 8 gauge lock. 7 won't go in. The 8 gauge will. So working on this principle, when you've got your gauge keys, it's only 5 keys to carry around with you. Not hard at all. Once you know the gauge, you're knocking out 80% of the boot for starters. Then you know what you're looking at. You can just go to that section that contains them 5, 6, 7, 5.5, 8 gauge locks. You know which section to flick to straight away. Colour is irrelevant because it really doesn't matter. Whatever the gauge is, more often than not, 99% of the time, it's got one of these lots of levers in it. So we'll show it. Well, not these levers in here, but the boot will show you which levers you're picking for, because when we get to the R plate stuff, it really does narrow down your choices. But on these locks, well, non-BS, not a problem.